What is up, my beautiful gemstones? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing the haunting and exorcism of Pat Redding. Welcome to day or part 5 of my 7 days of Halloween special. In this series, we've talked a little bit about another exorcism already, and I don't think anyway that I have to explain to most of the people here what exorcism is or what it's all about. Whether you're a believer or just here for a good story, though, you've come to the right place. Today we are discussing a haunting that led to an exorcism, which is a little bit different from anything else we've covered so far, at least in a long while. I tried to mix it up a bit this year, and I really hope you're all enjoying this series, despite this little hiccup that happened due to my being sick suddenly for a few days and unable to put videos out when I originally scheduled them and meant to. Anyway, thanks for your patience and buckle up, because this is a very interesting and somewhat terrifying case. Let's jump right in. Actually, before we jump right in, I just want to say that this video and most of what I do here on this channel is sponsored by my members. Ghost Dragon ZW, Wendy Williams, Nutslap, Val SWPA, KC, Blue Crossroads, Hurricane Holly, Gary Reed, Slow Motion, Life with Bobby, Jared Crazy Indian, Mama Cindy Lee, Chris Jarvis, Let the Monsters In with Ryan Tremblay, Kelly Lewis, Multifaceted Jules, The Batmom, Black Dragon, Diane Boss, Alexander Unverhall, Cheeky Kiki, Divine Empathic Tarot, Vixen Doe, Heather B, Paranormal Pixie, and Aunt Edna in no particular order. Thank you so much to my members. More information about that in the description box, and you'll see it also at the end of this video. In Litchfield, Connecticut, in the United States, there are tree-lined streets and neighbors who all know and look out for one another. The rustic historical buildings give the town something of a quaint feel, and it's easy when traveling through Litchfield to get lost in the nostalgia. Almost like a Norman Rockwell painting is how it's been described by a lot of people who've lived there. There's almost no crime at all, and the people who live there take pride in how safe their community is and has almost always been. However, in 1983, things would start to change for one woman who was living there at the time. She was a single mother to a 6-year-old daughter, and her name was Pat Redding. Pat and her daughter led a normal life, and they weren't too different from their neighbors in that they were simple people living in this gorgeous little town. They were content and so far removed from the supernatural terror that was about to land right on top of them, and no one saw it coming at all. Neither Pat nor her daughter had ever had any sort of paranormal or supernatural experiences to speak of, and there was no reason to think that that would change randomly and out of the blue anytime soon or at all. Pat didn't use drugs, she didn't drink alcohol to excess, and she had no history of mental illness or defect when all of this started. Despite those facts, strange things started to happen to her, and she started to experience some out-of-the-ordinary happenings. It started off relatively normal, at least for those of us who are familiar with these things, which in all honesty, Pat wasn't. But it was innocuous. There would be some banging on the walls that couldn't be explained, and it would sound like someone was walking around in the upstairs of the home when Pat knew for certain that she was the only one in the home at the time. These seemingly benign happenings would only escalate from there, though. The banging continued, and it wouldn't only come from the walls, but eventually it started coming from the ceiling and even from the floors as well. It would either be barely audible or incredibly loud and destructive sounding, and no one could ever know which to expect on any given day. All they knew was that there was bound to be banging coming from somewhere, but it wasn't coming from anywhere, all at the same time. This all progressed to items randomly flying across the room and furniture moving all over the home, all by itself, or seemingly so. It got to the point of escalation where Pat would be poked and pushed and attacked by unseen hands, and these things were happening to the degree where she would have all sorts of marks and bruises all over her body most of the time. She was absolutely terrified, obviously, but she didn't know what to do. She knew nothing about the paranormal, right? It wasn't in vogue back then. In 1983, it wouldn't be something to do to just go to your neighbor and tell them you were being attacked by something you couldn't see in your home. You could end up in a padded cell. I bring that up so that you'll keep in mind it wasn't like it is today. This was a time when people didn't get excited about paranormal activity, and long before any so-called ghost hunters were on television all of the time at any given time. Pat was terrified, and she really did have no clue what was happening to her, but she did know that she felt very safe both for herself and her daughter in her own home. One seemingly normal morning, things would take a turn for the worse, and it was almost like something out of a horror movie. So Pat woke up on this particular morning and immediately noticed her bed sheets were covered in blood. At first, she didn't know where the blood had come from, but it would become blatantly clear in a matter of minutes when she got up and looked in her bedroom mirror. Her back was covered in jagged cuts and deep slashes, and it looked like she had been attacked by some sort of wild animal. She did her best to patch up her wounds on her own, but it didn't stop there. The next night, she couldn't sleep because from the darkness of her bedroom, she was hearing the very loud whispering of several different disembodied voices. Whispering, in my own experience, is directly connected to jinn activity. And I'm not saying this is what happened with Pat because it does seem like something different here. But if y'all start to hear that disembodied random whispering, almost always, in my experience, it's been a jinn. So as the events escalated in the following weeks, Pat said that the attacks on her in the night and sometimes while she was asleep became much more intense and much more violent. An unseen entity ripped hair right off of her scalp and left bite marks going all up and down both of her arms and legs. To make matters worse, she would be lifted out of her bed and violently thrown across the room. At any given time of the day or night around the same time, Pat would randomly just start screaming at the top of her lungs for seemingly no reason at all. And while this was happening, her body would jerk and fling itself around uncontrollably into the walls, onto the floor, head first into the walls. Her 6-year-old daughter would witness most of this, and she was absolutely terrified and unable to do anything to help her mother. Pat would come out of whatever these trances and violent attacks were and would have no memory of them at all. Her daughter would be left to try and fill in the blanks for her. Her daughter's name was Michelle, and later on in life, she would talk about what happened to her mother and in the home, and she said once, quote, "She'd scream, she'd jerk backward. I'd turn around and she'd be in pain. Of course she would panic, she would cry, she was shocked. When you see the person that you love, that gave birth to you and took care of you, and then you see her being attacked by something invisible, so heinous and so disgusting. I mean, it really is a disgusting situation, and you will do anything to stop it," end quote. Pat, who normally was very calm and well composed, found herself becoming enraged and violently acting out at the slightest, smallest little thing. She could never explain the somewhat feral rages she would fly into at the drop of a dime and for the smallest perceived slight or wrong done to her. She really thought that she was losing her mind, and so she went out and sought the help of a psychiatrist because she seriously thought that it had to be. There was no other explanation other than she was having some sort of psychotic break. However, doctors couldn't find anything at all wrong with her. A full physical and medical check also showed nothing physically wrong with her as well, and no underlying issues that could explain, not even a little bit, what was happening to and with Pat Redding. Pat had never been interested in the paranormal or the occult, and up until this point wasn't even sure if she was a believer or not. After medical doctors and psychiatrists, psychologists, etc. couldn't find anything wrong with her, though, she started to consider that maybe her house was haunted and that something evil and sinister was overtaking her. And you know what? I got to give props to her for that. I have to give her credit because credit where credit's due. Back in 1983, the absolute last thing someone would think, even with all of this going on, just by what we know in how many thousands of encounters I've covered throughout thousands of videos here on this channel. As you can tell, I'm still very sick, just pushing through for you guys. But it takes like the most extreme things happening before someone will even begin to consider, only at the suggestion of another, that it could be paranormal. And Pat, physical exams, mental exams, up the wazoo, nothing coming back. And she's like, you know what? I think this might be something more than what I understand. Something paranormal or supernatural. She came to the conclusion eventually that a demon was trying to possess her. Paranormal researcher and relative of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and an all-around awesome guy, if I do say so myself, because I met him, John Zaffis, personally investigated the case, and he even wrote an entire book about it. The book is called The Struggle Within, and in it, John states, quote, "She was found to have no psychosis. There was nothing wrong with her. She was not a drinker. She was not an alcoholic. Nothing like that. Medically, physically, everything had been ruled out, and that's when a decision had to be made. And that's when, actually, we had the Roman Catholic Church involved," end quote. I just want to say as a side note here, again, that I applaud Pat Redding for being willing to open her mind to try and get herself some help before she really hurt herself or someone else. Because I see this so much, as I just said, thousands of encounters throughout thousands of videos where people know deep down inside that something is very, very wrong, but they refuse to accept that it could be something paranormal, and they refuse to accept this at any and all costs until it's way far too late. Anyway, over the course of the following 2 weeks, local bishops would perform a total of 16 exorcisms on Pat Redding, and during these exorcisms, she became so violent that she had to be physically restrained and tied down. However, none of these many attempts to drive the demons out of her worked, and she suffered through this very extreme demonic possession up until the day she died of colon cancer years later. John Zaffis did continue to investigate this case, and what he found, in my opinion, was very shocking. He found out that the house Pat lived in Litchfield had been rumored to be haunted long before she and her daughter had ever moved into it, but she was never made aware of that. It wasn't like today where it's like, oh, this haunted house is for sale and you could charge more. This was like, if you even suspected the house was haunted, you definitely kept that under wraps because you didn't want to sound like a crazy person. And then once you sold it, if the new owners were like, the house is haunted, you were like, sure, haunted, right? You know what I mean? It was a bad situation. Regarding the attacks pertaining to Pat and the extreme ferocity and violence of all of it, but still the inability to drive the demons out shocked John, and he came to the conclusion that Pat was what he called, quote, a soul victim, end quote, which is described as a person who has such a pure heart that they attract malevolent spiritual attachments inadvertently, even without showing any interest in the occult, the paranormal, and or similar things. John Zaffis explained about this a bit more, and he said, quote, we have what we call soul victims, if you will, purely innocent individuals that have never had any exposure to paranormal stuff whatsoever, and during the course of their life they just fall victim in the right place at the right time, and things could just occur. And I think that's what kind of happened with Patty, end quote. Just so you guys know, okay, because we're almost done with this video and it was very, very short, and that was because I felt this exorcism, this haunting, was important enough to get out to you guys without realizing that there's really not much information on it. So I am getting John Zaffis' book on Audible. I'm going to go through the whole thing, and we're going to revisit the haunting and exorcism of Pat Redding. But for now, it's part of the Spook Fest for my 7 days of Halloween. I almost said my haunted nights of Halloween. I don't know why I was going to say that. But anyway, so was this what happened here, or was it something else completely? I've never heard of the term soul victim, and I personally believe that all light workers and empaths have the ability to attract such things, with or without any previous exposure to the paranormal. But John is certainly more of an expert than I am, though I do consider myself well-versed on these subjects. It's definitely given me something to think about, though. How is it that the exorcisms failed so totally and completely and didn't even get rid of a single one of the demons allegedly inhabiting Pat's body, mind, and soul? That's so incredibly unusual in my opinion, and from everything I know about the subject. I know many skeptics will say it was all psychosomatic or something like that, but I can't ever believe that, and we really have no way of knowing one way or another because none of us were there, and I would be more willing to take John Zaffis' word for it over most people's, particularly when he was personally involved in this case, and he's related to like the demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren. I believe it's their nephew. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I know this video is super short compared to my normal ones, but I did that on purpose so that it would be easier and more efficient for me to get through them. Stay tuned for day 6 of our 7 days of Halloween when we talk about Ouija board killings. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content. If you enjoyed hanging out with me, spread the love by sharing this video, okay? Subscribe if you haven't already. Look, if you've been watching my videos and you're not subscribed, we're already YouTube dating, so let's just make it official. Subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Make sure your notification bell is turned on. Leave a positive comment. Leave an emoji comment. Leave any comment. Like it. It really does help with the exposure and helping my videos get seen more, right? Because I've been doing this for a while and I would like to get just a little bigger, a little faster, and I can do that with your guys' help. Check out the description box for important links, ways to donate to the channel. If you donate, I get paid. If you don't donate, I really do not get paid. PayPal, Cash App, my Amazon wish list gift links. A lot of you guys are like, hey, you know, can I send you a deck? Can I send you a crystal? I don't have PayPal or Cash App, but I'd like to send you something. Or can I send you something off of a wish list in return for a monthly reading? Yes, absolutely. I love to barter and trade, okay? So we can do that, but that information's in the description box. For any correspondence, to send in your own stories, to order anything for me, to check prices on things, to get readings, video chats, spiritual sessions, spiritual helper boxes, etc. Sending in your own encounters. I think I said that already. For any and all correspondence, email me at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com and I'll get back to you. I try to get back within 24 hours, but it's more like, 48 to like 72 hours. I do my very best though, and most of the time that's why I just tell people, just text me even if it's on business, because I stand better on business and everything else when I don't have to remember to do something like checking emails. The links for all of my books, Kindle, paperback, and Audible, will be in the description box, but that's a lot of links for a lot of books. So if I missed any, or if you're looking for any specifically and want to get right to them, you can always go to Amazon and type in Gemma Jade Books. If you purchase any of my books and want autographed copies, email me at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com before you make the purchase. And also leave a 5-star review. Leave a 5-star rating and a really great positive review, even if it's just 2 words. It really does help me, guys. It helps me make more money. Don't forget, I have books on missing the Fae theory. I have Encounters with Evil, which is a compilation of all different very well-known, personal and lesser known stories of hauntings and just evil overall. I've got Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis and Beyond, which is about the shadow entity phenomenon, the shadow person phenomenon, and how it does and does not pertain to sleep paralysis. Danger at Your Door, Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids, Midnight Visitors, more encounters. If you want the research and the theories and some encounters, but like the bigger bulk of what the BEK is and the whole legend versus the reality of it, that would be Danger at Your Door. If you just want encounters alone, I did do the companion book Midnight Visitors. You got Campfire Stories. You guys love listener encounters. Campfire Stories volumes 1, 2, and 3 are encounters that were sent in to me by you guys, right? By even people who aren't subscribed to the channel but just wanted to be in the book. There's no credit given or anything like that, but you'll know your own story. If you like listener encounters, I don't understand why you don't have all 3 volumes of that book. None of them are soups expensive, even if you want an autographed copy. Gone, Mysterious Disappearances, Volume 3, which I'm taking mysterious disappearances that are real, that happened in the blink of an eye in and outside of wooded areas, but I'm doing something I haven't seen anyone else do, and I'm telling you from my perspective as a medium, as a paranormalist, as a well-respected person in this field, what I do believe is happening, whether it's supernatural, paranormal, otherworldly, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, it doesn't matter. I'm going to put it out there with no offense given to the families and loved ones of those victims. And I'm working on part 4. It was supposed to be due on November 1st, but I had like almost an entire week that I'm still not feeling good from, where I couldn't work or do anything. So be kind to each other, guys. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. If nobody told you today, you're amazing. What are you waiting for? Get out there and make your dreams come true. Abundance is your birthright. Get out there, put the actionable steps behind your manifestations, work hard. You got this. I believe in you. I got your back. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time.